Alright, good morning everyone. And today we are starting with the seventh chapter of your text, Footprints Without Feet, titled The Necklace by Guy D. Maupassant. Alright, now this is a interesting story from which you take back a message. Alright, and the message being that you should always try to be happy with what you have. You should not have false pride and vanity. Alright, आफ्नोमा जे छैन त्यो चाहिँ अरूलाई देखाउनु लागि मात्रै चाहिँ गर्नु भएन. Otherwise there will be consequences to it at times, which you will see in the story. So today, once again, seventh chapter from your text, Footprints Without Feet, chapter titled The Necklace. Now let's go through the text once. She was one of those pretty young ladies, born, as if though an error of destiny, into a family of clerks. She had no dowry, no hopes, no means of becoming known, loved, and married by a man, either rich or distinguished. And she was allowed herself to marry a petty clerk in the office of the Board of Education. She was simple, yet she was very unhappy. She suffered incessantly, feeling herself born of all delicacies and luxuries. She suffered from the poverty of her apartment, the shabby walls, and the worn chairs. All these things tortured and angered her. When she seated herself for dinner opposite her husband, who uncovered the tureen with a delightful air, saying, "Oh, the good pot pie! I know nothing better than that," she would think of elegant dinners, of shining silver. She thought of exquisite food served in marvelous dishes. She had neither frocks nor jewels, nothing, and she loved only those things. She had a rich friend, a schoolmate at the convent, who she did not like to visit. She suffered so much when she returned. She wept for whole days from despair and disappointment. One evening her husband returned, elated, bearing in hand a large envelope. "Here," he said, "here is something for you." So at the beginning of the story itself, we are introduced to a lady, alright, a very young and pretty lady. And as destiny would have it, she was born into a family of clerks, alright. She was not from a very financially well-to-do family, but she had the dreams of living a rich life. She married a clerk. Her husband was a clerk. He did not have much to offer, and he gave her a simple life, but she had dreams of bigger things. Alright, when her husband would enjoy a simple dinner of pot pie, she would think of exquisite meals, of silvers and jewels, and wearing beautiful dresses, alright, but she could have none of those, and she always regretted that. She thought that she was born for the good things in life. She had a rich friend from the convent, and she did not like to visit her, because when she visited her, I'm sure she saw all the richness that surround her friend, and she used to spend her days crying because of that. And so one day her husband returned home with a large envelope, and he gave her the envelope and told her, "Here, this is for you." She quickly drew out a printed card on which were inscribed these words: "The Minister of Public Instruction and Madame George Ramponneau asks the honor of M&M Loisel Company, Monday evening, January 18th, the minister's residence." Instead of being delighted as her husband had hoped, she threw the invitation spitefully upon the table, murmuring, "What do you suppose I want with that? But my dearie, I thought it would make you happy. You never go out, and this is an occasion, and a fine one. Everybody wishes one, and it is very select. Not many are given to employees. You'll see the whole official world there." She looked at him with an irritated eye and declared impatiently, What do you suppose I have to wear to such a thing as that? He had not thought of that, he stammered. Why, the dress you wear when we go to the theatre. It seems pretty to me. He was silent, stupefied, in dismay. At the sight of his wife weeping, he stammered, What is the matter? What is the matter? By a violent effort, she had controlled her vexation and responded in a calm voice, wiping her moist cheeks. Nothing. Only I have no dress and consequently I cannot go to this affair. Give your card to some colleague whose wife is better fitted out than I. He was grieved but answered, Let us see, Matilda. How much would a suitable costume cost? Something that would serve for other occasions. Something very simple. She reflected for some seconds, thinking of a sum that she could ask without bringing in an immediate refusal and a frightened exclamation from an economical clerk. Finally, she said, in a hesitating voice, I cannot tell exactly, but it seems to me that 400 francs ought to cover it. He turned a little pale, for he had saved just this sum to buy a gun that he might be able to join some hunting parties the next summer, with some friends who went to shoot larks on Sunday. Nevertheless, he answered, Very well, I'll give you the 400 francs, but try to have a pretty dress. So her wife, Matilda's husband, expected that his wife Matilda would be very happy at the invitation because it was a very exclusive invitation at the minister's residence. But contrary to that, she became sad and irritated. He couldn't understand why, and she finally told him, What would I wear? I don't have a pretty dress to go to such a fancy place. Please, just give this invitation to some other friend of yours whose wife has better dresses than mine. She was crying. Her husband felt bad. He hadn't thought of that. So he said, All right, let's not worry. How much do you think a good dress would cost? Something that is simple and something which you can wear on other occasions too. And so she thought about it. She did not want to see a sum which her husband would reject at once. All right, she thought about it and she said, All right, I think maybe 400 francs will cover it. He turned a little pale, all right, because 400 francs is all that he had saved to buy a gun so that he could join his friends in a hunting session next summer. Nevertheless, he thought of his wife and put her happiness first, and he said, Fine, I'll give you 400 francs. Just get a pretty dress. And so we continue with the story. The day of the ball approached, and Madame Loisel seemed sad, disturbed, anxious. Nevertheless, her dress was nearly ready. Her husband said to her one evening, What is the matter with you? You have acted strangely for 2 or 3 days. And she responded, I am vexed not to have a jewel, nothing to adorn myself with. I shall have such a poverty-stricken look. I would prefer not to go to this party. He replied, You can wear some natural flowers. In this season, they look very chic. She was not convinced. No, she replied. There is nothing more humiliating than to have a shabby air in the midst of rich women. Then her husband cried out, How stupid we are! Go and find your friend, Madame Forster, and ask her to lend you her jewels. She uttered a cry of joy. It is true, she said. I had not thought of that. The next day, she took herself to her friend's house and related her story of distress. Madame Forestier went to her closet, took out a large jewel case, brought it, opened it, and said, Choose, my dear. She saw at first some bracelets, then a collar of pearls, then a Venetian cross of gold and jewels of admirable workmanship. She tried the jewels before the glass, hesitated, but could not decide to take them or leave them. Then she asked, Have you nothing more? Why, yes, look for yourself. I do not know what will please you. Suddenly she discovered in a black satin box a superb necklace of diamonds. Her hands trembled as she took it out. She placed it about her throat against her dress and was ecstatic. Then she asked, in a hesitating voice full of anxiety, "Could you lend me this? Only this?" "Why, yes, certainly." She fell upon the neck of her friend, embraced her with passion, then went away with the treasure. And so, as the day of the ball arrived, she became more sad, all right? Her dress was almost ready, and yet she was sad. Her husband was worried, and so he came up to her and asked her once again, "Dear, you have been like this for 2 or 3 days. What is wrong? You have your dress." And she said, "Yes, I have my dress, but I do not have a single jewel to decorate my neck with. I will look so miserable in front of all those rich women." And then the husband suggested, "Why don't you wear some flowers? Natural flowers will look very good." But she rejected that idea as well. Finally, her husband remembered something and she said, "Why? Why are we like this? Why haven't we thought of this before? Why don't you go and ask your rich friend, Madame Frostier? I'm sure she will lend you some of her jewels." And she became very happy. Remember, she had a rich friend whom she didn't like to visit? Yeah, her name was Madame Frostier. So she went up to her and she showed him all her jewels. And finally, she picked up a very expensive diamond necklace. And she asked her friend, "Can I use this? Can I lend this?" And she said, "Yes." So she hugged her friend and she was very happy that now her dress was complete. The day of the ball arrived. Madame Loisel was a great success. She was the prettiest of all, elegant, gracious, smiling, and full of joy. All the men noticed her, asked her name, and wanted to be presented. She danced with enthusiasm, intoxicated with pleasure, thinking of nothing but all this admiration, this victory, so complete and sweet to her heart. She went home towards 4 o'clock in the morning. Her husband had been asleep in one of those little salons since midnight, with three other gentlemen whose wives were enjoying themselves very much. He threw her he threw around her shoulders the modest wraps they had carried, whose poverty clashed with the elegance of the ball costume. She wished to hurry away in order not to be noticed by the other women who were wrapping themselves in rich fur. Loisel detained her. "Wait," said he. "I'm going to call a cab." But she would not listen and descended the steps rapidly. When they were in the street, they found no carriage, and they began to seek for one, hailing the coachman, whom they saw at a distance. They walked along the river, hopeless and shivering. Finally, they found one of those old carriages that one sees in Paris after nightfall. It took them as far as the door, and they went wearily up to the apartment. It was all over for her, and on his part, he remembered that he would have to be at the office by 10 o'clock. She removed the wraps from her shoulder before the glass for a final view of herself in her glory. Suddenly, she uttered a cry. Her necklace was not round her neck. So that day at the party, she enjoyed it, right? She was the prettiest woman that was there in the party. All the men wanted to be seen with her. They asked her name, they wanted to be presented to her. And while her husband was sleeping in one of the parlors since midnight, she enjoyed the party dancing around till 4 in the morning. Finally, at 4 in the morning, her husband put some wrap around her shoulders, all right, which was very modest. It wasn't very expensive or fancy looking. It was a shawl, maybe. And she didn't like it. She thought that it clashed with how she was being presented throughout the night. She didn't want to be seen in that modest cover because all the other women were covering themselves with fur. So she ran out even though the husband wanted to call a cab, a taxi. But she didn't want to wait, and so they had to walk a long way. Finally, they found one of a coach which was traveling around midnight in Paris, which dropped them to their house. And for the husband's part, he remembered that he had to be back for his duty at 10 o'clock. The wife, on the other hand, wanted to look at herself in all her beauty in front of the mirror. She opened the coverall to look at herself and admire herself, but suddenly she realized that the necklace was not around her neck anymore. Loisel, already half undressed, asked, "What's the matter?" The husband was already half undressed. So he asked, "What's the matter?" She turned towards him excitedly. I have. I have no longer Madame Frostier's necklace." He arose in dismay. "What? How is that? It is not possible." And they looked in the folds of the dress, in the folds of the cloak, in the pockets, everywhere. They could not find it. He asked, "Are you sure you still had it when we left the minister's house?" "Yes, I felt it as we came out." "But if you had lost it in the street, we would have heard it fall." "It must be in the cab." "Yes, it is possible. Did you take the number?" "No." "And you? Did you notice what it was?" "No." They looked at each other, utterly cast down. Finally, Loisel dressed himself again. "I'm going," he said, "over the track where we went on foot to see if I can find it." And he went. She remained in her evening gown, not having to force to go to bed. Towards 7 o'clock, her husband returned. He had found nothing. He went to the police and to the cab offices and put up an advertisement in the newspaper offering a reward. She waited all day in a state of bewilderment before this frightful disaster. Loisel returned in the evening, his face pale. He had discovered nothing. He said, "Write to your friend you have broken the clasp of the necklace and that you will have it repaired. That will give us time." She wrote as he dictated. At the end of the week, they had lost all hope, and Loisel, older by 5 years, declared, "We must replace this jewel." In a shop of the Palais Royal, they found a chaplet of diamonds it seemed to them exactly like the one they had lost. It was valued at 40,000 francs. They could get it for 36,000. Loisel possessed 18,000 francs which his father had left him. He borrowed the rest. He made ruinous promises, took money from usherers and the whole race of lenders. Then he went to get the new necklace, depositing on the merchant's counter 36,000 francs. When Madame Loisel took back the jewels to Madame Forstier, the latter said to her in a frigid tone, "You should have returned them to me sooner, for I might have needed them." So they lost it. All right, now the world is upside down. They try to remember whether they lost it whether they dropped it at the minister's house. But Matilda said that she had it. If it had fallen while they were walking, they would have heard it, and so it must have dropped. They must have dropped it in the cab. So the husband went out. He went to the newspaper. He went to the police. He went to cab offices. He put out advertisements. He put out reward. In the meantime, he could not find it. So in the meantime, he asked his wife to write to her friend saying that they had broken the clasps, or like the hook of the necklace, so they will repair it and then return it. And she wrote as directed. They waited for a week and they could not find it, so finally they decided that they had to replace the necklace. They found one exactly like the one they had lost, and it was valued at 40,000 francs, which they could get it for 36,000. Loisel, the husband, had 18,000 francs left by his father. The rest he borrowed from money lenders, from ushers, from everyone he could get money from, he borrowed. Then they finally got the necklace for 36,000 francs, which Matilda went and returned to her friend. Madame Forstier said, Madame Forstier wasn't pleased at all when she returned the jewel. Or like she was a bit annoyed. She said, you should have returned it sooner. I might have needed it." Madame Forstier did not open the jewel box as Madame Loisel feared she would. What would she think if she would perceive the substitution? What would she say? Would she take her for a robber? Madame Loisel now knew horrible life of necessity. She did her part, however completely heroic, so sorry. She did her part, however completely heroically it was necessary to pay this frightful debt. She would pay it. They sent away the maid. They changed their lodgings. They rented some rooms in an attic. She learned the arduous work of a kitchen. She washed the dishes. She washed the soiled linen, the clothes and dishcloths, which she hung on the line to dry. She took down the refuse to the street each morning and brought up the water, stopping at each landing to catch the grocers, to catch her breath. Then, clothed like a woman of the people, she went to the grocers, the butchers, and the fruiterers, with a basket on her arm, shopping, haggling to the last soul of her principal money. Her husband worked evenings, putting the books of some merchants in order, and nights he often did copying of 5 sous a page. And this lasted for 10 years. At the end of 10 years, they had restored all. Madame Loisel seemed old now. She had become a strong, hard woman, the crude woman of the poor household. Her hair badly dressed, her skirts awry, her hands red. She spoke in a loud tone and washed the floor with large pails of water. But sometimes when her husband was in the office, she would seat herself before the window and think of the evening party of former times, of that ball where she was so beautiful and so flattered. How would it have been if she had not lost the necklace? Who knows how singular life is, and how full of changes, how small a thing will ruin or save one. So she returned the jewel, and Madame Frosty did not open the box. And Madame Loisel was very happy. She thought that if she had opened the box and seen the change, she might have taken her for a thief. And now that the deed was done, a very hard life came in front of her. They were in debt. They owed 18,000 francs to various people, and so they had to make extreme changes in their life. They sent away the maid. The husband's worked night. He copied notes. He did other odd jobs as well. The wife, on her part, did the washing, the cooking, everything, the shopping. And at the end of 10 years, she was finally able to pay off all the debt. But now she looked old. Her clothes were dirty. She looked like a common woman, all right? She was very pretty, remember, but she wasn't pretty anymore. She looked like any other common woman from the poor household. But still, when her husband was away at office, she would think of the parties that she had attended, and she would think, what would have happened if I had not lost the necklace? Who knows what life I could have led? One Sunday, as she was taking a walk in the Champs-Elysees to rid herself of the cares of the week, she suddenly perceived a woman walking with a child. It was Madame Frostier, still young, still pretty, still attractive. Madame Loisel was affected. Should she speak to her? Yes, certainly. And now that she had paid, she would tell her all. Why not? She approached her. Good morning, Jean. Her friend did not recognize her and was astonished to be so familiarly addressed by the common parsonage. She stammered, but madam, I do not know. You must be mistaken. No, I am Matilda Loisel. Her friend uttered a cry of astonishment. Oh, my poor Matilda, how you have changed. Yes, I've had some hard days since I saw you, and some miserable ones, all because of you. Because of me? How is that? You recall the diamond necklace that you loaned me to wear to the minister's ball? Yes, very well. Well, I lost it. How is that? Since you returned it to me, I returned another to you exactly like it, and it has taken us 10 years to pay for it. You can understand that it was not easy for us who have nothing, but it is finished, and I am decently content. So she went off to Madame Frostier, and she's introduced herself to her, and Madame Frostier could not believe the change Matilda had gone through. Oh, my poor Matilda, what has happened to you? And then Madame Matilda explained to her, see, it is all because of you. Remember the necklace that you had given to me to wear at the minister's ball? I lost it and we had to replace it, and I have been paying back for it for the past 10 years. But now I have paid everything, and that is why I'm telling you. Madame Frostier stopped short. She said, you say you bought a diamond necklace to replace mine? Yes, you did not perceive it then? They were just alike. And she smiled with proud and simple joy. Madame Frostier was touched and took both her hands as she replied, oh, my poor Matilda, mine were false. They were not worth over 500 francs. So she was proud now, all right, while addressing Madame Frostier. But Madame Frostier was shocked and she said, but you bought a diamond set to replace the one you lost. And she was like, yes, I got you exactly the one you had. And then she took her hands, although she felt very sad for Matilda. She took her hands and she said, oh, my poor Matilda, my necklace was not real. It was not real diamonds. It was a fake necklace which did not cost me over 500 francs. So you see, in order to portray that she was rich, she borrowed a necklace from a friend, but it turned out in the end that it wasn't a real necklace at all. 500 francs they could have paid easily from the 18,000 francs that was left by Loisel's father. But now, at the end of 10 years of hard life and hard labor, Madame Frostier opened up to her and she took her by her hands and she said, oh, my poor Matilda, you shouldn't have done that. Mine were false. So with this, we end the 7th chapter of your text, Footprints Without Feet. Please go through the text once as well. Alright, so with this, we end today's class. Please stay home and stay safe.